Okay. So there's that.
I
That.
don't even. It's like this is insane. Okay.
All right.
All right. So we are gonna have. All right. Let's. One. All right. Countdown time, and it'll be like a 3 second delay. So, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good evening and welcome to Wine Antics Live for Thursday, the 28th of July. Where did the month of August go? Already it's the end. I'm Jen. I am I'm an advanced wine taster and wine lover, and for tonight's show, coffee lover, as that is part of our topic, comparing wine with coffee and how does it compare? Tonight we are joined, as always, by Stub, my lovely lifestyle expert co-host, and Jonathan Tripp from Jonathan Tripp Live. That's the show
Sure.
name. Yeah, we'll
Yeah,
go.
let's
We'll go with
let's
that.
just call it that.
That
Yeah,
sounds
Jonathan Tripp Live.
good. I just know him
I
as
like it.
Jonathan Tripp. Like
It's a good ring to it, so we'll just run with that one.
Okay. He is a social media maven, as I should say, and a little bit of my mentor as a live streamer, even though I haven't told him that before. Because I like to spring things on him like that. So let's do some introductions and start with Jonathan.
Well, my name is Jonathan Tripp. As you guys already know. No, thanks. But no, seriously, thank you guys for having me on. Jen, I've been able to watch and get to know you over the last little bit. But I have to say it's been all through live stream. It's all been through social media and things like this. And I really like that because that's what I do. I'm a broadcaster. I have a show I do weekdays at 10 a.m. Eastern time. That's really important to know, Eastern time. But we do it live, and we actually host it on another channel, but you'll see it around. I also do and work with businesses and small business and entrepreneurs for social media strategy and account management. And it's just really been one of those things that I really enjoy doing. And then the last thing, besides being, broadcaster, social media, I really actually do love coffee. I enjoy the whole thing. And if you don't know, I have this, I like to, this is what I call my mug shot. And that's a hashtag. And I have a whole bunch of friends now that send me they send me mug shots, literally, of their coffee mugs. And I think it's absolutely fantastic. And it's another great fun way to have, to be able to find and see your friends, be able to do fun things with them. So mugshot.
Mugshot. It's fun on Snapchat. Super fun on Snapchat. I love always seeing when you do get on Snapchat. I love seeing them there. And like I said, last but never least in our hearts, it's my co-host and partner in crime, Stub from Cork Envy.
Yes, I am Stub from corkenvy.com. I am wine and lifestyle expert on Emmy-nominated award magazine show in Roanoke, Virginia, Daytime Blue Ridge. Yeah, I'm just going to take this to the nth degree every time now. My next appearance will be Tuesday, August 2nd. We'll be doing a Wine 101 segment. I'm a blogger, filmmaker, wine writer, and speaker if you need. So if you need any of those things about wine, sort of about wine, you call me.
And,
there you go.
And quite the ladies' man, as he stood out in the rain tonight to cook his wife a steak.
That is also true. I promised the wife a steak, so I stood out in the rain cooking her a steak tonight before I got on air.
I feel like
that is true.
I feel that's love, so it needs to be shared.
No, you don't get 20 years plus into marriage without trying a little.
Yep, very true. Yep. So throughout the week, or not throughout the week, but throughout the last couple of days, I've been sharing a lot of interesting facts that I found that are not like traditional wine and coffee pairings, which we've done a lot of pairings in the past, pairing social media, pairing music, and really comparing the elements and breaking them down and comparing the two. No, I kind of went with a comparison in terms of like, what are the similarities between the two from my perspective? I mean, everybody else is going to come at this from a different way. over social media, I spent a lot of time talking about the health benefits between the two of them, because it's a huge thing that the wine industry, and I will say it from the wine industry because it's a good image to talk about wine in right amounts of quantity, not necessarily wine antics quantity. Both coffee and wine have some very good health benefits. We're talking about heart health for both coffee and wine, mood enhancers for both coffee and wine. I know that when I drink wine, my mood is often better. And then one of the very recent ones that I shared was actually all about your liver health, which I look at this as the yin and yang between coffee and wine. That coffee has some properties in there that is actually said to improve liver health and reverse liver damage. So I feel like, okay, so in the morning, I'm doing good things for my body with coffee, and then in the evening, I'm taking it all away. So coffee is the duct tape for my liver, from preventing against wine. And I know this sounds kind of weird, but this is the way I look at it. So that's my first share of comparing coffee to wine. Any of you gentlemen like to make a comment or go with the comparison?
Jonathan, guess first, my friends.
Okay, all
I'll
right.
just stun you both.
I'll run with it. What the comparisons? I think there's a lot of comparisons, and I didn't even think about the health aspects because, I mean, I know, right? I mean, if you drink wine, you drink wine. Come on, honestly, do you really drink wine for the health benefits?
Yes, every day.
No, it's
benefits, and you know it.
It's not a non-benefit. Let's be honest.
Right, but you're not going, I'm going to pick that one because it's really, really good for the. I mean, my life is powered by coffee, and I mean that in and of itself is one of the reasons why I drink it. I mean, I've been drinking coffee for I can count it in decades now since college, and the group of guys that I lived with in our house that we rented, they were all seniors and I was not. They were all like 6 foot, 200 plus pound dudes, right? Yeah. And I'm like kind of in there, I'm going like, what did I do? Right. And about halfway through a semester, they played this game. And this was my real heavy intro to coffee. It was what they called the race to the heart attack. And they would all brew a pot of coffee and they would see who's the first one that they could that could finish the cup of coffee. I mean, reasonably, not like just chugging a cup of coffee. That's silly. They would see, it was called the race to the heart attack. And they would see how fast they could consume a pot of coffee each. And so that was my intro. So I don't drink coffee for my health benefits. I drink coffee because it's awesome. That's really what it is. I mean, at this point now, I enjoy the exercise of actually making it as well as drinking it. That is a comparison. I think that I don't think anybody else here in the room makes wine themselves. You may be familiar with the process, but you probably don't make wine. I mean, I don't roast my own beans. That's the next step. That's like 2017 goals, okay? But right now, I don't need to because there's actually a couple of roasteries right here in like my town, or my city rather, in Lynchburg, that do that. And I talked with one last Saturday. I'm actually going to go see him tomorrow on Saturday at the Lynchburg farmers market.
Nice.
And it's going to be pretty awesome.
Amazing.
So, that's a comparison. I don't know. That was a really bad comparison because I really didn't compare.
No, Jonathan, I'll jump in here and reiterate.
There's no wrong answers.
I'll give you my coffee experience, and I will also say that I have made wine. I am not a winemaker, but I actually have made wine for an harvest in 2013. I did do that. And I will say my intro to coffee was probably growing up in Dallas. My best good friend JR and I would tell our parents we were going somewhere else because we lived in the suburbs, and we would drive to the Dallas Galleria Mall where there is an ice rink. and there was a great little place that made awesome cappuccinos. And we would buy cappuccinos and make sure that each of us had somewhere between $2 and $5 in quarters. And we would sit at the ice rink. And keep in mind, you could also smoke cigarettes indoors at that point. So we would have our cappuccinos at 17 and smoke cigarettes around the ice rink. And we would bet quarters on who was going to fall next. Ice skating. But that was my intro to coffee. My dad drank coffee when I was a kid. My mother didn't. And I never really took a liking to it until I felt sophisticated with a cappuccino, pinky up, and betting on which family member on the ice rink at the Dallas Galleria was going to fall next. a quarter at a time.
You stack the quarters, and then when they do, you just kind of scoop them in.
Yeah, it was almost like the arcade. And once again, we all went, we went home and, would lie about our age to buy lottery tickets because, we weren't 18 yet. But that's kind of my intro to coffee. And it was kind of that and going to the local joint in my neighborhood called JoJo's, where you could go if you told your parents you were somewhere else and you weren't out drinking and drugging, but you just wanted to smoke cigarettes and drink coffee. You could go to JoJo's at 2:30 in the morning telling your mom and dad you were going to spend the night at a friend's house. And JoJo's made an amazing cup of coffee right there on 183 and MacArthur Boulevard in Irving, Texas.
So it seems like your wine and coffee comparisons, or at least your coffee comparisons, all have connections with childhood memories, guys.
A little bit.
I want to take a moment and thank everybody for joining us on YouTube Live and Facebook Live. We are actually live and chatting on huzzah.io/wine antics. And if you'd love to come and join the chat, we'd welcome you. There is some interesting dialogue going on. More to the line of our traditional type of pairings that Stubb and I have done for Blab About Wine and on Wine Antics Live, have kind of taken, like I said earlier, the elements of wine and comparing them to coffee. Now, I can't break down what Colombian versus Jamaican versus South American, what the notes of each of these brewed versions, because it's not just the beans, because that's a different smell, and then the roasted is a different smell. But once it's brewed, I couldn't remember that. That's why there's coffee somms for that stuff. But there are definite classes of coffee. So we have our K-cups. There's the people that drink K-cups, and they're okay with that. And I'm one of those people on any given day. There are people that brew things, by the pot, like with Folgers or Maxwell House or even Starbucks. Then there are the French press people. And I can be one of those people at any given time. But that's exactly like Jonathan shows. But then there's an additional step of person that takes coffee to the extreme. And that's the people that buys their own green beans. Because if you don't know, coffee comes as little green beans. Then they roast them or get them roasted. Then they're boiling the water to a certain temperature and then adding it to a French press in different layers or levels of coarseness. I mean, there's some serious art to what it comes down to. And so taking all of those elements, the K-cup drinker, the Folger House brewer, the just everyday kind of French press person, and then the extreme, maybe we could do some wine comparison to that. What do you think, Stubb?
I think we can do that.
I don't know. What about you, Jonathan? Do you think you could compare a little wine to each one of those types?
I don't know about that. If I can compare the wine, I can talk you about a little bit about some coffee.
Okay.
But I'm a pretty fast pickup when it comes to wine. I'll give it a shot.
We'll even go beverage arts in general. Like for you can the whole gamut of beverages, and I would say adult beverages. Let's try to keep it to that realm.
No Kool-Aid.
No Kool-Aid, unless it's got some soju in it, and then we can talk then. So let's start with K-cups. I'm sure at one point we've all, including the people in the audience, have been a K-cup user. What kind of wine would you pair with a K-cup, or beverage for that matter? I will start. I don't mind. I would pair that with an average everyday drinker. So it would be something that you could grab out of the grocery store. So you're talking one of the bigger bigger name brands. I actually am loving Dark Horse. Maybe people don't know about it, but it's a very big brand that they have a Cabernet Sauvignon and a Sauvignon Blanc. So you could pick your choice. You could say a rosé from Sutter Home. You could pick a white Merlot from Behringer. But that's where I would go with a K-Cup.
I would have to pretty much agree with that, because see, almost even to another level, and I'm going to go with this way: if your wine has a handle on it and it comes in a cardboard box, that's your K-Cup. Come on, I see the comparisons, right?
Yep.
This
So
is
true.
wine on the go for coffee when you need it.
Yep, that's true. It is.
That's
It's
it.
accessible and ready to go when you are. And jug wine or box wine is very accessible. What do
It
you
has
think?
straps and you can put it on your back.
I see
Bring
those.
a straw around. That's a K-Cup.
I will agree with that. That I am not a fan of the K-Cups personally, because I do equate that kind of to jug wine. And I'm posting a link here.
Oh,
Ironically enough, during my 49-ish or so episodes of Weekly Wine with Stub, this episode here dealt with coffee and cupcakes and eggs. And it dealt with more of the single-use kitchen appliances that one can buy for making a breakfast sandwich. Like, a breakfast sandwich maker is called an oven and a pan, not this thing that you crack an egg in and then put an English muffin on. And a coffee maker is a coffee maker, not a Keurig. And I think I've probably called out my father-in-law, who has a regular and a travel Keurig, because he swears by the Keurig. Yeah, I find that the K-Cup thing is, you're not going to get the best stuff. And even if you grind your own beans into that, you're grinding way too many, depending on your grinder.
don't even get.
And it just doesn't work for me unless in a pinch. If I'm staying in a hotel, it's great. We lived in an apartment building that had the Keurig K-Cups downstairs if you wanted a quick cup on the go. But if I want a cup of coffee, I'm going to grind my beans that I want to grind and make some amount of coffee in a pot and be done with it. So yeah, I will equate that to a jug wine a little bit, because your choices are limited. And there are some great jug or mass-produced wines that are great. And there are some K-Cups that have carrying it to wine a little bit better. Like, there are some mass-produced wines that are better than others. But at the same time, if I want a good cup of coffee, I'm not going to a K-Cup. Period.
I agree. So from
Shasta does still exist, Debbie, by the way.
oh, I don't.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what that is.
I'm sorry. Oh.
Just throwing words in there that I don't know. Why are you trying to confuse the blonde? From there, from the K-Cup, and I mean, it could be the same about quality. If you're brewing a whole pot of coffee, and we're talking Starbucks from the grocery store, we're talking Folgers or Maxwell House or whatever your preference is. But you're putting a little bit more time. You're putting a little bit more time to your commitment of drinking coffee. Let's put it that way. If you're making a whole pot, unless you have a family of 4, you're drinking a couple cups. Okay.
Yeah, of course.
So that's what I see when somebody makes a whole pot of coffee. As for wine, what I would compare that to. Oh, that's actually, I haven't even thought about that.
You asked the question, Jen.
I know, but I came up with the outline.
I know.
And now I put myself on this spot. So, I know it. I won't say any names, but I have a couple girlfriends that buy some barefoot, by the like 2-bottle size. I don't know, is that the Magnum size?
No.
What?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
So I feel like that would be my comparison. Like, buying the under $10 Magnum size bottle of wine. Not jug wine, not box wine. They do sell more generic brands in a bigger bottle.
Sure.
So you're committed to drinking when you start opening that. Just saying.
Indeed. All right.
Tag. Stub.
Yes, no, that's true. That is why I actually, when I'm at home, I do not make coffee if I don't grind my beans. I have a big tumbler burr grinder, and I get and quite honestly, I've found a great Costa Rican blend from the wholesale store that I really like for general drinking. And I fill that tumbler up, and I make I've found the grind blend from fine to medium that works for me for how much coffee I drink every day. And it works for me. Now, when I want a nice cup of coffee, I also keep other beans in the house occasionally when I want a nicer cup of coffee on the weekends. So it's kind of like, hey, I'm making a steak tonight, so I'm going to open this awesome bottle of wine. Well, on a Sunday morning when I want to sit and read the entire Washington Post, I make maybe I pour those beans out of my grinder and put nicer beans in and sit with that and actually sit longer and think about my coffee while I'm drinking it.
So did you compare it to a wine?
So everyday wine, I'm going to open a, red blend from basically wherever. Let's say the, exclusive California red blends. Sometimes on a Tuesday I'll open that because I want a red wine with dinner, and I'll open that. And if I'm making a nice filet that I've bought for a special Saturday night when I'm want to seduce the lady or whatever, I'm going to open a nice red Burgundy. I know. Shake your eyes. Roll your eyes. You knew I was going there. Come on.
No, I actually appreciate
but
that.
It's a difference. It's a difference, though. There is a difference between the meanings of what you're doing. So every morning I have my normal coffee for the most part, but special occasions I grind different beans, whether it's the Mexican exclusive beans my wife brought back from her vacation with the ladies a couple weeks ago, or something I go into Whole Foods and buy, which right now my next one, and I haven't tried it yet, is Rise Coffee from Easton, Maryland. Rise Coffee sold at Whole Foods right now. Not Eastern, Easton. I met one of the workers there a couple weeks ago in a bar, surprise. And I'd heard of their coffee, I just never bought it. But I'm gonna try that on Saturday morning because I bought a bag of it from Whole Foods.
All right.
But that's not a Tuesday morning coffee when I'm like, all right, great. I got to wake up and have a couple of cups and read my news and check my emails and then get to work. That's not a Tuesday morning coffee for me.
And that's a very fair point. Like when we make a pot of coffee in my house, it's usually pretty generic stuff. But like you, there could be some house guest or weekend long where you guys will drink a nicer whole pot of coffee. So that does reach for a better caliber of wine. What do you think, Jonathan? How do you approach a whole pot of coffee?
No.
I approach it
daily?
very quickly and lovingly. Because if you come too quickly, you'll scare it.
Nice.
And, and I don't know if you guys know this, that I had a passing in the family this past, I think it was Wednesday.
No.
Yeah, it was either Tuesday or Wednesday. My coffee maker had been with me for, I don't know, at least 5 years. I'm not joking. It was probably about 6 or 7 years I've had this one coffee maker. And on Tuesday, it just stopped making coffee. We did everything we could to try to resuscitate it. I mean, we did everything. I mean, we changed outlets, we jiggled it. We even gave it like the come on, guys, how you fix things right? You just kind of go, bam. It didn't work.
Wow.
We tried everything that we knew how. And unfortunately, that was the end of that one. But it's okay because we already have spare up on the shelf ready for it because we'll never be without a coffee maker. So
yeah,
you had me. I was about to send condolences for your family loss.
Well, right.
I've had that coffee maker for almost as long as I've had my dog.
Oh wow.
Wow. I have a coffee maker that I think probably needs to be put out to pasture. I've replaced the glass pot twice already. And because sometimes I'm lazy, well, most of the time now I'm lazy. I'm like, for $20, I can replace the carafe. So I'll put it in the dishwasher with the hard water in our neighborhood. So it gets that white, and I've had 2 pots though crack right at the handle. And I'm like, oh, do I need to go to like a stainless thermal carafe?
That's what we're at now.
Yeah. And I'm kind of thinking my next purchase is that. Yeah. So I'm a Cuisinart coffee guy myself. How about you, Jonathan?
We just finished the old one was the it's like a KitchenAid knockoff.
Nice. Okay.
It's the same thing. They just put a different brand name on the front of it. I mean, like you hold the two boxes next to each other, they're identical except for the name.
Right.
That one just died after 6 or 7 years. So
when I go to Dallas and visit, I stay with my best friend from high school. They have a Capresso coffee maker with the little milk steamer, which they don't use anymore because they have not a Keurig. What's the other one that's not Keurig with the pods? They have the Tassimo and an espresso both. They have both of those, but they keep this Capresso full pot coffee maker because I visit and they get up and make themselves a cup of coffee and they go to work. Right. And they're like, Stubbs going to get up and make himself a half a pot of coffee. This is Stubbs coffee maker, it is. Which is pretty amazing, by the way.
Wow.
I mean, we have that kind of a thing when we go to my in-laws. They actually have a full coffee pot. We bought the coffee pot. We leave it there. That's the only time it gets used. Or
to go to Dallas,
we're there. So I mean, that's the way it is. But to answer your question is that our replacement, which is now going to be probably the one for the next decade, or at least until 2020 something. It is the Cuisinart. It's got the steel carafe in it. I mean, and I had forgotten how hot it keeps the coffee.
Yeah.
Which is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I do a lot of, I'll do like a pot of regular coffee and then we get into, and that's like my everyday coffee. So how do I approach it? I mean, look, I go in, and I have, tonight I've got a couple of things, but usually this is like my Mr. Mug. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I'll coffee and I just put a little bit of cream in it, or like a little bit of milk or something. The milk actually just sweetens it up just enough. Indeed. And it brings the temperature down just so that I can drink it right off the bat. That's how I like to do that, because on a regular day in, day out, that's how I like to have my coffee. Just needs to be right then.
So, Jonathan, you brought up you put a little milk in your coffee. You use sugar?
Nope.
All right.
No, the milk actually makes it sweet enough for me.
Yep. All right. So I've heard that. I will tell you, I drink my coffee black with a touch of sugar. And I've been trying over the years to put less sugar in, and I do now. I think we can compare that to wine, though. Like, as far as like, how do you like your wine? A little sweet, a little less sweet, more sweet?
All right.
That's a preference thing.
I love my wife. I'm going to answer the question that way. Okay?
Well, that's good. All right.
I love
that is a great start, Jonathan.
I love the ramp up to this.
There's nothing. There's really. I can't now answer the question wrong in any way. No, I love my wife, and when she likes a sweeter wine.
Okay.
I mean, like it's to me, it's like fruit juice.
Okay.
That's like just says like tangy fruit juice. Like that's about it. But I love her, and you'll never hear me say that to her. To her face. Okay. But in the same way, she also likes her coffee sweeter. So we've done a whole bunch we've done sugar, raw sugar, which we're now where we're totally out of that. We've tried stevia. We've tried maple syrup, honey, all these different, and she actually likes it. She just came up with this new kind of creamer recipe. That's a sweetener that's not really like full of sugar, and she's loving it right now because it keeps calories down and it's not processed. Okay. So it's a win-win. So she likes her wine a little sweeter. So when she gets a bottle of wine, I'll drink it too, and I'll smile, and I love her.
Nice. All right. Fair enough.
So you gave it to your wife. You didn't actually talk about your wine preference, though.
I like drier wine.
So your wife, and I'm hoping you understand this based on where you live, Jonathan, your wife has kissed the devil, but you would prefer not to.
You know what? All I can say is I love her very dearly.
Okay. All right.
And with this being up on both Facebook and YouTube, and I still love her very dearly.
Jen, do you get that reference? With the
Why
winery.
we call me out like that?
No, I'm saying, do you get the reference with the winery I'm speaking of?
No, I don't.
I also don't want to call out a winery.
Oh, everybody gets really cautious because this is on YouTube Live and on Facebook Live. What's going on?
But said winery may have the top of a mountain adjective in their name and a furry mammal that swims in the water that is adorable at the zoo.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
There you go.
Got it.
Because they have a thing. They at their wine festivals, they will give you a sticker that says, "I kissed the devil," if you have their super sweet, fiery wine and then put canned cheese into your face afterwards.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there you go.
That sounds
All
like
right.
an experience. Everybody's going to have to
Well,
figure
it's an
out his
experience
references.
that it's an experience that most people in Virginia wine circles, if you've been to a festival, have at least seen, if not done yourself. I've not done it myself because I'm like, seriously, that's crazy. But I will say their winery is in a beautiful place. I've been close to where their winery is. I've not actually been to it, but their winery is higher in the peaks of the valley than I've been, and it's amazing. Like their vistas are amazing. Their wine's a little sweet, and they give you hot sauce and canned cheese with them. So I'm not going to speak past that.
Yeah, I think we should just hang that up now. But I do like that Jonathan made a coffee mug change. Sometimes we go through wardrobe changes, sometimes we go through bottle changes, but Jonathan went through a coffee mug change.
Because the first cup, that was my Mr. Mug. That was from the coffee pot. You know, that was the last of the second of pot from the day. So that pot is now done. Since we've been on, I've got my French press and one of my new favorite mugs. This is somebody made this mug and they sent this to me. Donna.
Nice.
And she's a friend, and she sent this to me. She knows, like, there's a pottery. It's actually, I think they're up in Maryland, if I'm not mistaken. Really? And they handmade that and sent it to me. So that is now like one of my. Actually, this is also. I got to wash this out tonight, and this is gonna be my mug for tomorrow's show. But this is my French press for tonight.
It's like the Craig Ferguson snake mug when he was on air. If anyone knows that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he had the steak mug from Arizona, I think. He bought that at a tchotchke shop in Arizona and then had it on air with him for like 4 years.
That was his mug. I rotate through. I have a mug for. I could literally go a mug for every day.
Of course. Yeah, I've seen your shows. Yeah, you usually have a different mug. Yeah,
it's ridiculous, actually, if you think about it.
And that's honestly how much he's loved. I mean. He has a daily show every day, and there's a great amount of audience that loves the hashtag mugshot and wants to have their little cameo. And it is jonathantripp.com, right, to find all of the information.
That's my main website, and if you just want to watch the show, it's easy enough. It's just jonathantripp.live. That's the easiest way to find it wherever it is. But I've got 2 or 3 mugs that a couple people send me, and I love to rotate through, both giving them a shout out. But this one, I just thought this would be great because I handmade my French press and my handmade mug, and that's amazing. That's a nice mug to me,
Of course.
It is. So did you say what you actually have brewed in there?
It's coffee and only coffee.
Yeah. All right.
See here, that one.
Drink wine now for that.
What did I put in? Oh, actually, okay. This one, this is actually what I have in there. It's Traeger Brothers Coffee, and the reason why it's kind of interesting is because that's out of Livingston. The office is out of Livingston, Virginia.
Nice.
And I think it's as I'm kind of reading through the back and as I kind of gotten to know them, but this is at like a local, I don't know if you guys have fresh markets up there.
Yes, we do now.
Okay.
Yep.
I don't know if I'm supposed to not say names, but I got it at Fresh Market. So, but they do this one, it's like, I personally like the richer, darker, more robust. It doesn't necessarily have more caffeine in it. It's a thicker, richer taste. That's how I like coffee. I don't like thin coffee as much. But that's what I use. And I don't have to really grind it really, really, fine. It's just big chunks. It's almost like wood chips. And then I just put it in my French press and I let it sit for about 8 minutes and then pour it. And then it's really amazing.
Nice. Jonathan, do you do most of your coffee in French press, or do you do most of it in a coffee pot?
Most day to day, I do it in the coffee pot.
Okay.
When it's at nighttime, or if I'm doing something like a steak or something, when I'm having like a nice meal, that's how I'll make it, because most of the time I don't need cream or anything with it.
Okay. Have you had Greek coffee, by the way, ever?
I have.
Okay.
But I don't really remember it because I wasn't into it.
Okay.
This was like 1997.
Okay.
And it was like the Greek.
Yes, exactly. Yes. So if any of you watching don't understand, Greek coffee is basically boiled grounds in a pan on the stove. And then if you're very lucky, some very stereotypical, almost gypsy looking Greek woman will pour it in your cup and then put it down. And then she will read your coffee grounds to tell you your fortune or your future. I'm not lying about this. No. I'm really not.
I believe it.
I don't want to sound in any way whateverist, but if you've had traditional Greek coffee in a Greek person's home, that is what happens. And it's amazing. And the coffee is the strongest coffee you will ever have in your life. Yeah, Greekist? I don't think I'm Greekist. I have Greek friends. Is that okay to say? Yeah, no, but I'm saying it's the strongest coffee you ever had, but it's delicious. And there's a ritual to it, which I think is amazing, by the way. The ritual of that is awesome.
That's a fair question. Cheryl asks, is it stronger than Turkish? Because I've had Turkish coffee.
And how was that prepared, Jen?
It's prepared very similarly. It's almost like an espresso concentration to me. And you're like, you will drink the grounds, or the grounds will sit at the bottom of it. And it's super acidic and harsh and intense.
Yep. Yeah, the filtering is basically when they stop pouring to determine how many grounds you have in your coffee. Yeah. Yeah, but you will drink your coffee and they will read your coffee grounds on the bottom of your mug. Once again, I love but much like wine, it's like you get wine at a restaurant. It's the kind of
unique.
It's not that. You've got a thing around it though. It's a tradition around that, right? It's the same with wine and coffee. So I think those two things are very similar. Depending on the part of the world or culture that you're dealing with coffee or wine, those two things are very similar. You have a tradition and a way you do things. Yeah. So it's like you order wine in a restaurant. There's a way that those things go. And the experience of it makes it maybe better, maybe worse. One of our closest friends is Greek. And every now and again, her husband's like, if we go down to their home, and it's been a while since we have, but he's like, make Stubbs some coffee, which is basically keywords for you've had too much to drink. And I say that he's my age and he doesn't talk like an old stereotypical Greek man with a monkey or whatever. But I really stepped out of bounds there. And she's like, Stubb doesn't want that coffee. And I'm like, hell yeah, dude, that's amazing coffee. And she'll make it. And then she will, according to how her mother and grandmother taught her, read my coffee grounds at the bottom of that mug. Like, it's an experience of it. And that's amazing. And I think that's similar to wine in very many areas.
So talking about all this, and I do French press coffee, like it has to be a special occasion. But when it comes to both what I brew in K-cup form, in like full pot form, and even in the French press form, I like a bolder coffee. I like a Colombian. I know I'm drinking a dark roast. And I feel like that even translates to my coffee or my wine profile. I will drink a dry white. I will drink a sweet sangria, a sweeter sangria. Only sweetened by liquor, so it's still strong. But my favorite is big, bold reds. I mean, I like them fruit forward so that I feel like I'm getting a little roundness to it. But I like big, bold reds. And I don't know if you guys find that's true too. People that put the extra effort into coffees or enjoy darker coffees, maybe they correspond with liking a bigger red or a drier red.
I like a drier red when it comes to that. I mean, I don't like the, like I was saying, it's like tangy fruit juice.
Yeah.
That's just how I like, say it's like, well, it's nice. It's polite wine to me. It's very polite.
It's society wine.
It's here, have this, and you're like, yes, thank you very much. I've had that
good.
plenty with coffee. Right? No, but when it comes to like wine, I mean, if you give me a choice, give me a dry wine, something that, I mean, I just happen to enjoy it better. I didn't always like it that way. Maybe it's when I hit like 30, all of a sudden I was like, this is what I like now. I don't know how that works, but maybe I've aged.
To be fair, you've only had 2 years of experience with that, Jonathan.
So one of my best friend is actually watching in the Facebook Live. Hi, Nicole. And she's working her way into wines, and she enjoys a medium body coffee. So maybe more like the breakfast blend, what people would be used to, or I can't even think of another one, but she's getting into the reds. Now, I would have argued that she would have probably liked a lighter coffee when she liked sweeter wines, and now she's starting to branch out into the reds and more dry portfolio. So I think that's a pretty fair course connection. And I welcome anybody in the audience here on Huzzah or on Facebook to make a comment. How do your wine preferences match with your coffee preferences? Do you like the darker coffees and the bolder reds, or the lighter coffees with extra cream and sugar, and you like sweet wines? I mean, I'd love to hear opinions.
I usually see that is the case, that they like the lighter, sweeter wines, and it's very much the same way in how they like their, the coffee. Because usually one of the things that with coffee is that unlike wine, for the most part, and I know there's exceptions to it, but most of the times you think of wine as pairing with a food, or pairing with very odd. It's not so much, we'll just have a standalone wine. I mean, there are some, and that's why I say there's some exceptions. Usually coffee is a standalone drink. It's unusual when it gets paired with something. And when it does get paired with something, it's usually something like a chocolate. Sometimes they do it with like berries, like blueberries and stuff like this. And I'm kind of like, it's not my cup of tea, so to speak,
Right.
They can do it, but for the most part, coffee has been really thought of as a drink, as a standalone drink, which is kind of unique.
Yeah, Jonathan, you bring up a great point. Like so my wife brought this up to me. She's like, my grandparents drank coffee with every meal, like morning, noon, and night. They didn't care. And I was like, all right, well, that's the thing. I get it. I can drink coffee with a meal, but if I get a brunch on a Sunday, I'm going to order a coffee and then I'm going to order a mimosa. So now you're actually blending coffee and wine together for like a brunch situation. And as you said, if I'm drinking a wine alone, I want a big, bold, tannic red that I have to sit there and think about. And it's the same with coffee. But if I'm drinking a wine with a meal, I want something that's going to complement that and be a little lighter. So I think if I go to McDonald's and get an Egg McMuffin with a hash brown meal with their coffee is I think I can say across the board, fairly medium roast, all around breakfast blend type coffee.
It is literally the middle of the road.
Right. But it goes perfectly with an Egg McMuffin and a hash brown. Right. Like it actually pairs. You get a hot beverage, you get a little bit of, egg and protein. You get the protein and carbs in your gut to get through the day. And you can make your own version of that at home. I'm not pimping McDonald's necessarily, but once again, you've got some type of pork, some type of carbs, and some type of cheese or dairy there, the cheese on it. And so you have a middle of the road coffee. And most mornings, that's what I have. I have a slightly harsher middle of the road if I'm just drinking coffee, because I don't normally have breakfast. So if I'm having coffee by itself, I want a big ass coffee. Mm-hmm. But if I'm drinking coffee with something else, I want something a little less, harsh or overbearing. And I think that goes for the same with wine with food. If I want a big wine just to sit with a bottle of wine with me and one other person for 3.5, 4 hours listening to music or hanging out, I want a big ass cab.
Oh, yeah.
But, if I'm having it with steak or something else, I want to rein that in a little bit. And depending on the steak, and once again, the pairing's a little, maybe in my mind, a little different with the steak, with the wine. But I don't know. Coffee forward wine. I don't know what that means. Y'all are crazy.
I mean, there's coffee notes. When people start describing wine, there's definitely a secondary, maybe even tertiary characteristic of coffee notes in a wine. You don't get it very often. It has to be the right combination of probably oaking and the grape. But anyway, I think we talked quite a bit about the French press and how we would kind of compare wine and coffee with the average French press user, but we haven't talked about the top tier of people on the coffee lover gamut. And those are the people that control every aspect of the coffee making process, from green bean to water boiling temperature, all the way to, I don't even know, brew temperature. I'm sure you could probably control all of that. If I would love to hear if you have any experience on that, Jonathan, or have done
yes,
that.
I do. You do? Yes, I do. And that's my last cup of coffee for the evening, actually. So one of the ways that I don't roast my own beef for a couple of reasons. I don't need to. I've got a local roaster that I can go to, and I know where the beans come from. I know he does an excellent job, and I don't need to stress about it because he does that good of a job, right? So I can get those kinds of beans already done, but then I can grind it the way that I want for the type of coffee I want. So a drip press is going to be different than my an espresso, which is going to be different than my my French press. But in the last one that I do use, and we just picked this up because this is something I've been wanting for a while. My wife found this. Okay. I do it the upside down version. Okay.
Oh,
that's fancy.
This is an AeroPress.
Oh, nobody even knew what that was.
I've seen these. Please tell us.
Yes.
Okay. So it's upside down, and I already have the grounds already in there. I've already prepped the grounds. That's what I was doing just before the show. I was just grinding it up. And the way it works is, so you put the grinds in here, and it's a plunger. There's a little rubberized gasket seal right in there. So this is what I do. I heat the water up to just about 160 degrees, maybe 175, and
very precise. Very precise.
Yeah, and there's a reason for that, because I don't want it to boil.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay, so I know I was a little off screen, but what you didn't see is that then I just filled it up. So all the grounds in here, and I just filled it right here. I'm trying to be careful because I don't want to spill this all over myself and the desk. So then what happens on the top of this is it's this thing, and there's a little paper filter, and it just goes right on the top like this, and it's just like a filter in your like a paper filter for your for your regular drip coffee, right? Oh, one thing I forgot to do, I have this thing, I have to stir it around. So the hot water is now mixed all in all the hot water, and it's doing this, okay?
I'm mesmerized right now, by the way.
I let this sit for about a minute. Now this one I'm going to let sit for a little longer because I want a little stronger taste. So that's all I need to do. So I put the gasket back on. This is the filter strainer / an amazinger.
Amazinger.
I'm making up words now.
Amazinger.
Yeah. So I like this, and I'll show you, because what it does, it actually pushes the plunger. I'll show you the other side, is that it's upside down. I brew it upside down, and that's a big deal.
Okay.
That's controversy, right?
Right.
You hold it from the stem or from the glass, right? I mean, maybe I don't know, right?
That's whole cluster versus single berry maceration, by the way. In the wine world.
Using a whole bunch of words that sound like English, and I'm going to go, that sounds like English. Yeah. I have a top hat when I actually make this in the house. I put the top hat on. Right. So what this does actually pushes instead of allowing the water to flow over it and then through it and the gravity and stuff like this. The way this is the press, it's a press. Mm-hmm. And it actually, when you flip it over, and I'll show you, put it into the coffee, and it pushes it directly through. So the plunger then forces the water through the grounds, and it obviously the filter keeps the grounds back and allows the water to go through, and it goes straight into my cup.
Nice.
And this only makes about 4 or 5 ounces, maybe 5.5 if you're really tricky. And so it's like serving size, but it makes espresso quality coffee.
Nice.
This is the most like in control that I've been there. I can be in with my coffee without getting ridiculous and silly. Wow. So this is the way it works. Okay, so let me see if I can do this. I can't
live demonstration right here with Jonathan Tripp.
So this is kind of how I do it.
He's put his mug on top.
Well, I just do it because, see, it's going to start coming out the bottom.
Of course, dripping slowly.
Yeah, it's what you do. It's harder.
Would we call that percolating in the coffee business?
Right. It's brewing.
Brewing.
So I'm pushing it down.
But you have the air. But you actually have air.
It's pushing it through.
But you have an air gap between the coffee and the water and grounds.
Doesn't matter because you're still just pushing.
Right. Of course.
All of it through. And I'll say this. Okay, so now that part's done. And now I have a full cup of coffee, and I don't know if I can get it.
I like look at me. I'm like, oh, can I see?
Right.
Look at all.
I want to sip.
Right, and I mean, this is espresso.
Smells delicious.
Yeah, I mean, well, it does for me. And this is the occasion.
We all did. Cheryl, you watched us all lean forward.
I know, we're all like
yeah, I know. That's what I
want to smell it.
And this is the occasion where I don't put anything in it. Because it's so, like, I don't add sugar, I don't add water, I mean, in all that kind of stuff. But that gives you the basis, and that's like, this is how I do it. That's so that's my upper tier of coffee.
Yeah, that's not upper tier. That's like luxury tier.
Yeah, I would compare that though to opening a wine that you don't need to pair anything with. Like, let's sit with this big ass cab, or let's sit with this port. Although when I have one of those, I always want maybe a little cigar with those, or a nip of cheese. And once again, you might want some chocolate with that, Jonathan, but you don't need it. Like, the coffee's great alone. You can complement it if you want to, but you don't have to.
Usually I like a lot of these kind after I've had a meal or something. Like, this is after event kind of a thing.
Right.
You know what pops into my mind with this? I mean, it's not necessarily a luxury commodity, but it's not something that's always served, but like a port. Like you're complementing the end of the meal. It can be served with dessert, or it could be served on its own. It's strong, it's unique, and it's delicious. And there's a lot of time and love put into it. And it's unique. Port is not just from Portugal, even though that is the term that is synonymous.
Port technically is from Portugal, but
port style.
Port style.
There you go. Very technical terms, but as most people know it as port, it's very unique to its area where it's made. Can be made from many different grapes, and it's a little bit of a luxury. It's not a cheap bottle of wine often.
Because of the aging and time put into it.
Oh yeah.
So I will say King Family Vineyard here in Virginia does a great port style wine that is a 100% Merlot, but they age it for 20. I think it's 24, maybe 36. I think it's 24 months minimum in barrel, with it's an amazing bottle, and they bottle it under the name of Seven.
Yep.
And that bottle of wine is so amazing. And if you open that after dinner, you're going to finish it, even though you shouldn't.
No.
You shouldn't.
Because it'll
But you
last
will.
longer than your average bottle of wine. It will actually last longer. But yeah, that's not too far from you, Jonathan. Actually, so that's down in Charlottesville.
Yeah, Charlottesville's about an hour, 45 minutes, hour north of me.
Right.
So I mean, that's not that far.
No, there's an amazing conglomerate of wineries. And if you ever do want to make that trip, both Stubb and I have gone down there and tasted a few different, and we would love to give you some recommendations.
Of course. And the awesome thing about where you are, Jonathan, is that you are within the Central Virginia, Charlottesville wine growing region. And you're also in the Roanoke Lynchburg TV market, where you can watch me on WSLS on Tuesday.
You know, I gotta say this, and I love how he put that in there, Jen. You got to give, however he does this, and I love he's done this right at. I don't know if you look at the time, strategically at the close of a show. That was
Same.
It's
I'm
brilliant.
I'm a pro.
He's a pro.
I'm gonna go hang with Natalie and Brittany on Tuesday, and we're gonna do Wine 101.
No, but that really is cool, because I mean, I knew you kind of guys were around, but I actually didn't know you were that regular on TV. I was like, well, I guess now I know, I need to tune in.
Yeah. I'm sure on your cable, though, you get Charlottesville and Roanoke stations both. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. WSLS 10. I'm on.
Are you huzzah-jacking the show right now for your TV stints? I'm just saying.
No, I'm saying you introduced me as our resident lifestyle expert and make fun of me. I'm gonna jump onto it.
It's called,
I'm gonna be like, you know what? I'm in. That's the 66th or 67th, depending on the day, biggest media market in the country, and Daytime Blue Ridge is an Emmy award-winning magazine program. So, and I'm a regular contributor. I'm a regular contributor.
Where's Chris when I need him?
If you're going to throw it out there, I'm going to jump on it. Yeah.
I think this is a good point to end at least the recorded portion of
course
this show.
It is.
I know, because you've kind of laid the extra.
Well, I've tried.
Yeah.
We've hit great points, though.
It is, absolutely. We've had a lot of fun going through the health, a little bit of the health comparisons between coffee and wine. And then, of course, we kind of went through the list of the types of coffee drinkers and comparing them to wine. I really want to say thank you to Jonathan Tripp for coming out and joining us. He brought a amazing demo and coffee lover perspective to Wine Antics Live. You can catch him daily on firetalk.com, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Social media, coffee, humor, it's all wrapped up into one on his daily show. And of course,
that's a fact.
It is an absolute fact. And Stubb is on Daytime Blue Ridge. We all have our moments here.
Stop it already! You're embarrassing me.
He's our resident lifestyle expert. So catch him on follow him on Cork Envy. He will post his shows. And of course, us here on Wine Antics Live every Thursday, 9:30 p.m.